Hey there guys, Darryl Griffiths here for JumpCut Online. I hope you've all been well. I am back at Glasgow Film Festival. Had a few days away back in Birmingham, but now I am back for the last 4 days of the festival. Tonight was the surprise film, and it was, without further ado, with a little drum roll, it was Promising Young Woman, starring Carey Mulligan and directed by Fennell. Quite the name, I know. Promising Young Woman is another spectacular showcase of Carey Mulligan's talents. I personally feel that she's one of those actresses that just doesn't get enough credit at all. Wildlife, directed by Paul Dano. Shame with Michael Fassbender. An Education. There's just so many of her performances that I feel just don't quite get the level of credit that she deserves, and I've got a funny feeling this might be another one that might just slip under the radar, but I really hope it doesn't when it's out in the middle of April. Carey Mulligan plays Cassie. She, right from the off, has an air of unpredictability. There is a devilish, pitch black nature to her and the way she interacts, particularly with men. But there is a method to this madness. Well, at least to an outsider, it feels like a method of madness. But as the plot unravels, you understand why she has this thought process, particularly towards men, and she hangs out in various clubs and pretends to be drunk, almost to push buttons of these men who are ultimately trying to get in her pants. And the way she toys with them is devilish, but it coaxes out of these men some very sinister tendencies, and the narrative is very much rooted in something from her past with her friend Nina and what happened to her ultimately. And Cassie's never quite got over it, and the relationship with her and her mom, played by Jennifer Coolidge, of course, aka Stifler's mom, her mom doesn't quite understand why she still is the way she is, but she's bottled it up for so long. And she basically, she keeps a book where she crosses off every man that she's been with, almost like some sort of kill list or hit list. And it's fascinating to see this character not necessarily unravel, but just the way Mulligan layers this character the longer the film goes. It's just, you're utterly transfixed. Fennell's direction, there's almost this like bubblegum pop vibe to it. It sort of gives you this very glossy sheen, particularly in the early going, but it's like, if, like with the bubblegum pop, if this was an album, it'd be like the Twisted Fantasy edition. And Carey Mulligan carries it spectacularly. I was blown away by her performance, to say the least. I'm still sort of processing it because it's not long I've got out the screening. The way she handles herself, there is such a formidable presence, but you know there's so much vulnerability underneath it all, and the way she sort of reclaims her power and her sense of femininity and strength through these various experiences. But ultimately she's holding out for something that's quite meaningful in her life, and this is where Burnham's character comes in, Ryan, who is a doctor, and he again is another figure from her past, but they never really knew each other that well at that particular time. But his humour sort of almost aligns with hers. There's a bit of darkness to it and very dry wit, and they bounce off each other in terrific fashion. And Burnham, who I'm a huge fan of, even before 8th grade I was quite familiar with his stand-up, and I was raving about him then. It's all on Netflix, by the way, if you want to go check it out. And he's quite a zany presence on stage, and again, rather like Mulligan's character here, Cassie, he sort of toys with his audience on stage in his stand-up sense. But here it's quite reined in for the most part, but he does have a fantastic sequence in a pharmacy with a very peculiar one-hit wonder. I'm not going to spoil what the song is, but it almost steals the film from underneath everybody. There's great support from Alison Brie, who is another sort of high and mighty sort of character, or well-to-do. She broken out of school or med school quite well, and has done well for herself, and she's the counterpoint to everything that Cassie represents now, who's almost on this revenge mission or some sort of redemptive arc, and the sparks certainly fly between them as well. And Laverne Cox, who is a refreshing presence as well, as her cafe colleague, who ultimately is trying to steer Cassie in the right direction also, but as Cassie's quite a volatile character. And the soundtrack, as I mentioned, there's the one song is of course by Burnham, but the soundtrack, the way it's peppered, again, it's very bubblegum and counterpoints a lot of it. There's a wicked reworking of a Britney Spears track. Again, not gonna say what it is but it's very beloved, put it that way. So when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is quite the twist. But that's sort of the vibe that Promising Young Woman goes for. It sort of toys with these, to a point, rom-com tropes, but there's almost a trashy access to it. But because of everything that it sort of stands for, it does feel quite elevated, and I think that's mainly down to the lead performance of Carey Mulligan and the way she navigates this quite odd tone. I mean, not every tonal shift is seamless within the film. I think it could be smoothened out a little bit, and because it does go to some really dark places, and to completely flip it on a dime, it doesn't always gel. But because of the talent at Emerald Fennell's disposal, it just about gets away with it, because there is a couple of flaws, and the ending to some degree might feel a little implausible to some, but I think it completely encapsulates everything that it's trying to strive for, particularly in this Me Too movement, and there's some very startling moments where they sort of hint that maybe women aren't supporting women in being upfront about the ordeals that they've been through over the years, but the way that men are represented, it's almost dialed up. It's full on, misogynistic, sort of this frat pack sensibility that a lot of them sort of adopt, particularly in packs. And it's sort of this gang mentality where it's sort of abusing their power and sense of privilege. And Carey Mulligan is very much on a mission to rectify that. And I think Promising Young Woman is a visually striking. It's superbly performed. Again, I could rave about Mulligan's performance all day long. It's just fantastic. Again, tonal shifts not always smooth, and it could be a little bit tighter in that respect. But I think it's another fascinating role for Mulligan, and it's great to see Bob Burnham break out from his stage trappings, and of course 8th Grade, another film that I highly recommend. It was, funnily enough, it was at Glasgow here last year, and it blew my socks off. It's such a brilliant coming of age drama, so do check it out. But Promising Young Woman, out in the middle of April, very much recommend it. Just to finally give more credit to its lead performer, its headliner, and it's gonna, because of the context that it's within, in sort of this trashy thriller sort of vibe, I'm really intrigued to see how this one goes down in April. But that is my review of Promising Young Woman. I very much hope you've enjoyed it. JumpCut Online, the usual tropes, your usual spin-off from me, I should say. Facebook, like our page. Twitter, JumpCut_online. The website, www.jumpcutonline.co.uk. The Patreon page, we're striving collectively to hit another target in trying to get more people backing us on a month-to-month basis, whilst giving you various perks. Be sure to check those out. And last but not least, fellow JumpCut guys, Jacob, Nick, and Billy are all involved in a project called I Love You Guys. Yes, I know I'm not much money has been not much expense has been spared here in trying to plug it, but they've just launched a crowdfunder. This is a project that's very dear to their hearts. It's a very sensitive subject matter, which is to do with mental health, and its lead protagonist is leading her way through the music business and also identifies as LGBTQ+, which, as a gay man myself, more representation of LGBTQ+ people in any regard is always welcome, whether it's short film, feature length, and so forth. The crowdfunder, be sure to go onto their Twitter page, I Love You Guys, and all the details will be found on there. The crowdfunder will be running for around a month. I think they're nearly up to $1,000 already, which is fantastic, and much love to them. And I really hope they hit their targets that they have set. So do check that out as well, guys. But that is a wrap for now. I've been Darryl Griffiths, and I will speak to you soon, guys, for more Glasgow Film Festival goodness, I hope. Take care, and bye-bye for now. See you later.